Imagine the sheer terror of being snatched right out of your own sanctuary. Tonight marks 41 agonizing days since Savannah's mother vanished without a trace. With zero logical explanations for this sinister vanishing act, Sunday officially closes out 6 agonizing weeks of searching for Nancy. The shadow of doubt hanging over this mystery is immense. Though I personally spoke with the leading sheriff who dropped a bombshell, he actually knows what drove the suspect to commit this unthinkable act. While he kept his lips sealed on the specific motive, his warning was chillingly clear. The phantom responsible is still roaming the streets, so the community must stay on high alert. Fast forward to tonight, and the hunt for Nancy Guthrie has officially crossed into its most explosive and terrifying territory yet. A monumental twist just dropped out of nowhere. Law enforcement has suddenly zeroed in on a completely unexpected target that might have been harboring dark secrets the entire time her own son-in-law's ride. Whispers of what they pulled from that interior aren't merely adding confusion to a deeply disturbing puzzle. It looks like this discovery completely obliterated the original playbook, proving this is far beyond your average sweep. Forget standard detective work. This isn't a routine hunch, because seasoned cops know a car is never just a way to get from point A to point B. It acts as a rolling diary, a steel vault of unspoken deeds, a mute observer that documents exactly what guilty minds try so desperately to hide, especially when dealing with a web of lies and dead ends. Whatever was lurking inside those doors forced the entire squad to slam on the brakes, rewind their steps, and completely tear apart their entire working theory regarding Nancy's sudden disappearance. So, what kind of bombshell was sitting inside that specific vehicle? Could it have been an invisible speck that an ordinary person would simply brush away? A microscopic thread, tying that exact set of wheels to a sinister location, a frantic getaway, or a timeline gap the authorities were desperate to fill? Or was it something far more sinister and gut-wrenching? A grim realization pointing directly to the inner circle, suggesting the nightmare was breathing right down the family's neck. Because the second the crime lab treats a family vehicle like a hotspot, the stakes skyrocket. The upholstery talks, the floorboards whisper, even the door handles give away secrets. Every single seam, the trunk space, the hollow void under the spare tire, all those forgotten crevices become prime real estate for betrayal. Instantly, every square inch acts as a revealing paragraph in a terrifying script, which explains why this specific update is sending shockwaves through the department. Authorities do not rip apart a personal ride with a fine-tooth comb unless they smell a massive break in the air. Hunting for microscopic ghosts, things completely shielded from the naked eye, unseen links that weave a terrifying web between suspects, coordinates, and panicked movements louder than any confession. If you are diving into the true crime world for the first time, Joe, this nightmare perfectly illustrates how the biggest breakthroughs rarely start with a dramatic chase or a tearful admission of guilt. They usually ignite from a silent, clinical lab result pulled from the most mundane item imaginable. And the moment that inanimate object begins singing its grim tune, the entire narrative gets flipped upside down. The clues pulled from this specific cabin might have triggered that exact shift, largely because this wasn't just a random sedan parked on the street of a missing persons case. This specific set of wheels has suddenly morphed into the single most critical piece of the puzzle in the hunt for Nancy. A steel trap that might finally provide clarity to one incredibly disturbing question. Has a trusted family member been harboring a monstrous secret this whole time? Because here is where the paranoia really sets in. The grim findings pulled from those seats likely forced the entire squad to scrap their early theories, rip up the original timelines, and put Nancy's closest loved ones under a brutal microscope. To put it bluntly, that sweep didn't just casually dig up a few clues. It took the entire investigation and violently yanked the steering wheel. That distinction is crucial, because when veteran cops admit they are pivoting their strategy, they aren't chasing ghosts or neighborhood gossip. They are ignoring internet conspiracy theories and relying strictly on undeniable, rock-solid proof that demands a massive escalation. Right now, the crosshairs are locked directly on the one mobile vault that managed to keep its mouth shut until the lab got involved. Nancy Guthrie evaporated into a terrifying unknown. Yet, that terrifying unknown is now circling right back to a family car, a machine that experts swear contains the invisible fingerprint of the ultimate truth. bridging the gap between a frantic drive and a dark intent, transforming mere presence into a sinister probability, turning whispers of doubt into cold, hard facts. Tonight, we are tracking that exact ride, diving deep into the lab work, and mapping out the undeniable breadcrumbs that completely blew this case wide open. Because if the secrets locked inside the son-in-law's car truly rewrote the script, then this marks the exact second investigators stopped stumbling through the dark and finally locked onto the brutal reality. You see, the mind-bending clues they pulled next guaranteed that vehicle would remain in the spotlight forever. But to truly grasp why a simple family ride morphed into the ultimate key, we need to rewind and examine the absolute nightmare law enforcement walked into from day one. Imagine an 84-year-old grandmother vanishing into thin air. That is exactly the nightmare that struck Tucson in late January, with Nancy Guthrie officially reported gone on February 1st, 2026. Law enforcement immediately suspected the absolute worst, that someone had forcibly snatched her from the safety of her own world. The clues left behind painted a deeply chilling picture, particularly those dark, ominous spatters staining her front entryway. Chilling footage revealed a hooded figure disabling her security lens just as she was taken, alongside a phantom car lurking around on January 31st, while forensic teams recovered multiple genetic profiles right on the property. Yet, the identities attached to those profiles remain a closely guarded secret by the police. Meanwhile, investigators have officially cleared her own relatives of having any dark involvement in the ordeal. This chilling dead end forces law enforcement to shift their entire focus, moving away from interrogating human beings and hunting down inanimate clues instead. When someone is swallowed by the shadows, the real story rarely comes from what a bystander claims to have seen. You simply cannot rely on a sudden tip-off on the hotline, a tearful admission of guilt, or a sudden, movie-like revelation falling right into their laps. The darkest secrets often disguise themselves as perfectly mundane items we ignore daily: a metal key, a frayed cuff, scuffed sneakers, a twisted charging cable, or an automobile. The moment a set of wheels becomes part of the equation, the entire hunt takes a terrifying turn, a fact any seasoned mystery enthusiast understands instantly. An automobile is never merely a mode of transport, it acts as a vault, locking in every journey and recording every single touch. It captures the microscopic exchanges of reality. Like a single thread hitching a ride on the upholstery, specks of dirt map out hidden locations, and invisible DNA seeps deep into the stitching, stubbornly waiting long after the culprit thinks they got away clean. Essentially, that hunk of metal transforms into the ultimate, unspeaking testifier. It cannot utter a word, yet it aggressively hoards the invisible debris of human actions, making it the crown jewel of any forensic pursuit. This becomes extremely critical when the authorities need to trace exact footsteps, figure out what sinister cargo was hauled, and completely tear apart a suspect's carefully constructed alibi. Whenever law enforcement zeroes in on a specific ride, it is absolutely never a coincidence. It is the moment routine checks mutate into grave accusations. That marks the exact second the squad abandons their guessing games to ask one terrifyingly specific question: is this the very machine holding the grim reality of Nancy's fate? This inquiry holds massive gravity here, considering how deceivingly normal an everyday ride appears at first glance. It projects total innocence, blending flawlessly into the mundane backdrop of a quiet suburban street where life normally just flows by. However, crime scene technicians see through that lie. They view it as a complex puzzle of overlapping textures, touch points, and hidden chambers. To them, it is a sealed ecosystem, perfectly designed to trap guilt. The driver's area might whisper one sinister tale. The back row could scream a different nightmare altogether, while the cargo hold might hint at unimaginable horrors hidden under chairs or within door panels. Every interior latch, every piece of hard molding, the carpets, and even the dark cavity housing the extra wheel. None of these spots are trivial to the experts. They are the exact boundaries where a simple machine transforms into a smoking gun. This is precisely when the tension skyrockets, because the moment that automobile took center stage, the hunt discarded all local gossip and wild guesses. The entire operation transitioned into ruthless methodology, surgical accuracy, flawless logging, and strict protocols. Each microscopic step the lab experts executed was absolutely vital, engineered specifically to unravel one core mystery. Was this automobile merely driven by someone in Nancy's orbit, or was it the actual vessel used in her harrowing disappearance? That single difference means everything. The public often pictures a vehicle sweep as a quick peek through the glass, a fast pop of the hatch, and a brief shuffling of junk before calling it a day. Let me be clear, a legitimate crime scene sweep operates absolutely nothing like that casual fantasy. An authentic scientific teardown of a car is agonizingly methodical, precise, and tests the limits of human patience. It moves at a glacial pace that screams the authorities know a dark truth is hiding inside. It all kicks off with freezing time, before a single gloved finger breaches the cabin. The team captures the machine exactly as the culprit abandoned it through thousands of digital snapshots. They record impossible angles, map spatial gaps, note the exact recline of the chairs, and scrutinize every scuff on the carpets. They lock down the visual state of stray trash, discarded jackets, crumpled, store tickets, empty containers, and random belongings, shooting the cargo bay untouched. Every exterior grip is thoroughly logged, and every storage bin is intensely cataloged. Even empty space speaks volumes, ready to destroy a liar's future alibi. The reason: the second the probing starts, the uncontaminated reality is destroyed eternally. For a nightmare like the Guthrie case, where the squad is juggling masked footage, sinister crimson droplets, a phantom ride, and the terrifying theory of a premeditated snatching, locking down the automobile's pristine condition is absolutely crucial if it holds the key to mapping out the perpetrator's movements, timing their exact escape, and exposing whatever horrific secrets were deliberately scrubbed away. Only after all that does the grueling, hands-on dismantling finally begin. Imagine the most terrifying kind of silence, that bone-chilling quiet when crime scene techs tear into a suspect's world with cold, calculated precision. They do not just glance inside, they dismantle that vehicle piece by piece, starting dead center at the steering wheel, sweeping the passenger dash, and digging into the console. They are hunting deep within the seat tracks, scraping through the upholstery stitching, and probing those dark voids underneath where dirty secrets always pile up. From there, the hunt moves to the rear cushions, peeling back the rubber mats, tearing up the base carpeting, and checking every single door panel. They scour the latch mechanisms and every tiny crevice where life leaves a microscopic mark. But do not expect them to find a smoking gun immediately. Forget the Hollywood fantasy of discovering a massive, glaring clue or a discarded tool that instantly cracks the entire mystery wide open. The real horror lies in the invisible, a microscopic thread of fabric completely alien to that specific interior. A single, stray strand of hair left behind by someone who had zero reason to be sitting there. A piece of foliage proving the driver lied about their route. A speck of dirt completely foreign to their own garage. Or an incredibly faint shadow of residue that only glows under lab lights. We are talking about microscopic biological markers, physical transfers, and the absolute tiniest breadcrumbs proving that a living, breathing human was forced into that exact space at a highly specific moment, which is exactly why this process sends shivers down your spine. One microscopic flaw ruins the perfect crime. Let me be absolutely clear, this is not just dramatic flair for a video. This is the cold, hard reality of forensic science, where a single speck of dust can either validate a suspect's alibi or completely destroy their lies. Just one invisible clue links a ride directly to a forbidden zone, instantly transforming a wild hunch into undeniable proof. If you are a true crime Joe viewer tuning in right now, take a second to let that terrifying reality sink in, especially with a mystery that currently has the entire country on edge. We are talking about a chilling situation where a shadowy, disguised individual was spotted lurking right outside NY's residence. Police are practically sounding the alarms that this phantom predator might make another move, heavily hinting that this was a highly calculated strike. Knowing that a microscopic fragment trapped inside a car could blow the whole investigation wide open is the only fuel keeping these exhausted detectives pushing through the dead ends. And let us be honest. From where we sit, it feels like this entire hunt has hit a massive brick wall. Us, regular folks, only get fed the basic scraps, the bounty posters, the blurry security camera screenshots, and the generic press conferences. The public relations spin is totally different from the nightmare detectives are navigating behind closed doors, wading through endless oceans of doubt. They are forced to rip apart every single alibi, trace every tire track, examine every item, and aggressively interrogate every passing minute. So when they finally zero in on a suspect's ride, they know that metal box is a vault of dark secrets. It cannot talk, but it absolutely refuses to let go of the truth. This plunges us straight into the most incredibly nerve-wracking phase of the teardown, completely ignoring the spots an amateur might wipe down. The real gold mines are the blind spots criminals overlook in their panic, like the suffocatingly tight gaps wedged deep into the upholstery. They hunt along the grim borders of the floorboards, digging into the rear cargo pockets, and tearing back the very fabric of the interior. They flip over the carpet protectors, pry open the hollow wheel wells, and swab the greasy mechanisms hiding inside the door locks. They hunt in those trapped, forgotten shadows. And honestly, the rear cargo area always brings an incredibly chilling vibe to these mysteries because of what it implies. It whispers of a forced vanishing. It is the ultimate nightmare space for hiding things away, moving someone against their will from safety into total darkness. And the authorities are acutely aware of this terrifying reality. The very second the white suits pop that back lid, the entire atmosphere of the crime scene instantly drops 10 degrees. The casual sweep ends, replaced by one horrifically dark thought. If a tragedy occurred inside this metal cage, exactly where did it leave its loudest echo? This is the exact millisecond the blind fishing expedition transforms into an ultra-precise, laser-focused manhunt. At this stage, the forensics team is not merely cleaning a car. They are actively trying to prove a terrifyingly specific narrative. Forget about media gossip. This hypothesis must hold up against cold, hard microscopic facts, begging the question, where do these hidden breadcrumbs lead? If the ride is sparkling clean, does that clear a suspect? Or if the findings are totally messy and confusing, does it just make the prime suspect look even shadier while sending the cops down a fresh rabbit hole? This unbearable, nerve-shredding anxiety is the very pulse of this entire baffling mystery. Because whatever secrets are pulled from that chassis do not just draw a straight, simple line to the guilty party. It can either lock the handcuffs onto a prime suspect forever, or absolutely shatter the cops' favorite theory and send them back to square one. No matter what happens, that piece of machinery is the ultimate linchpin. It is the exact crossroads where wild guessing finally turns into a lethal conviction. But once the swabs are bagged, the real nightmare begins for the forensic technicians back at the lab. Now comes the agonizing waiting game, where every single speck of dust is packaged, tagged, and thrown under the microscope to see what story it tells. We are talking hardcore chemical breakdowns, intense biological fluid tests, and highly complex genetic sequencing against known profiles. It demands matching dirt to specific forests and spending hundreds of hours staring through high-powered lenses. Every single clue must be violently matched against the chilling scene at NY's house, pivoting the whole mystery from what is hidden in this trunk to whose ultimate downfall does this prove. Forget the rumors. This is the exact moment the cold, unyielding grip of science hijacks the narrative. The second those laboratory doors swing shut, the entire game flips. A microscopic speck transforms into a glaring red flag. A stray thread becomes a potential smoking gun. A solitary smudge is no longer just a shadow, it becomes a storyteller. Every single fragment demands a reckoning. Was it dragged directly from the house? Does it trace back to that dark, isolated road? Does it fit the suspect's alleged alibi? Is it an innocent piece of dust? Or the chilling signature of a sinister encounter? When detectives start chasing these ghosts down the barrel of a microscope, they aren't merely stacking up clues. They are literally turning back the clock. Who gripped that steering wheel? What hour did the engine roar to life? Where did it vanish into the night? And who held the keys? which meticulously crafted alibi is suddenly crumbling under the weight of the truth. That is the terrifying power of forensics in a mystery of this magnitude. It does not just fill in the blank spaces, it completely shatters everything we thought we knew. And if that nightmare scenario unfolded here, whatever was lurking inside that car wasn't just a random discovery. It was a brutal revelation, one that dragged investigators kicking and screaming back to the drawing board, ripping apart every route, every alibi, and every hollow excuse. This meant the looming phase of the manhunt was never going to stop at the vehicle itself. It was about the devastating bomb that vehicle dropped on the timeline. And the moment those detectives began stitching those hours back together, the crosshairs locked in tighter than ever before. What unleashes next is exactly where this nightmare twists into something infinitely darker and far more complex. Because the instant they pull traces from a suspect's ride, gut feelings get thrown straight out the window. It becomes a brutal game of comparison and rigid sequence. And they must confront a question far more terrifying than simply asking what was uncovered. They have to stare into the abyss and ask, what does this actually prove? Now, officially, the brass has kept their lips sealed regarding any lab results pulled from the son-in-law's ride, explicitly clearing Nancy Guthrie's own flesh and blood from the suspect list. On the surface, the glaring spotlight of this tragedy remains firmly fixed on Nancy's residence. A scene haunted by crimson droplets staining the front steps, tangled DNA profiles, and the chilling footage of a masked phantom blinding the security lens, alongside frantic whispers of an unidentified vehicle prowling the neighborhood shadows. Behind the scenes, the task force is obsessively scrubbing camera feeds, hunting down every phantom lead, and begging the public for that one missing puzzle piece. Yet, in the hidden realm of forensics, even while the public is left completely in the dark, detectives execute a ruthlessly precise choreography. A swab is taken, it gets sealed tight, bagged, tracked, shipped off to the sterile walls of the laboratory. And that is where the terror shifts its shape. Out on the gritty streets, the tension is raw, breathing, and palpable. Crime scene units are tearing open trunks, peeling back floor mats, blinding the dark with camera flashes, and hunting through the deepest crevices for a single damning clue. But the second those little plastic bags cross the laboratory threshold, the chaos morphs into pure, cold science, eerily silent, deeply calculated, and almost entirely invisible to the naked eye. There are no sirens wailing here, no flashing red and blue lights, just clinical experts in protective gear, staring down microscope lenses, running complex algorithms, and facing the agonizing, slow-burn mystery of whether one microscopic ghost links to another. This is the exact precipice where a cold case catches fire. Because at this level, they aren't just wondering if something bizarre was left behind. Now, they are hunting for a direct, undeniable match to the nightmare they already know. Does a microscopic thread from the passenger seat weave back to Nancy's living room? Does a speck of dirt tell a story of a clandestine midnight drive down a specific, monitored road? Will a biological trace lock a target in a cell, or set an innocent man free? Does a smudge prove two individuals crossed paths, or that something sinister was briefly hidden away? Or does the Whitecoat team deliver a bombshell of equal, terrifying magnitude? Absolutely nothing at all. And that chilling dead end carries more weight than anyone realizes. Because science isn't just a tool to condemn, it can completely exonerate. It can shatter a prosecutor's entire narrative in seconds. It can forcefully rip detectives off a comfortable trail and hurl them into an entirely new, terrifying direction. So right now, the million-dollar question isn't just about what was hiding in that vehicle. What truly matters is whether that dark secret can withstand the brutal, unforgiving scrutiny of a microscope. And if it does hold up, the shockwave will be absolute. Imagine the sheer devastation that would unleash on a mystery already drowning in shadows and doubt. Law enforcement is convinced Nancy Guthrie was snatched, pulled into the darkness against her will, with Sheriff Chris Nanos openly declaring this was a calculated, targeted strike. Detectives are actively digging into the chilling possibility that this predator did not act alone, relentlessly hoarding camera footage and dissecting the bizarre technological blackouts that plagued the night she vanished. This guarantees the official timeline was already hanging by a thread, long before any phantom car clues were dragged into the spotlight. So if the lab experts pull a genuine smoking gun out of that trunk, the task force will be forced to rip up their timeline and rebuild the entire horrific night from scratch. And right there, one tiny slip-up, one single lie about where you were, and the trap slams shut. That is exactly how an ordinary person becomes the prime target in an absolute nightmare. Detectives do not care about your perfectly rehearsed alibi. They only care if the silent whispers of the crime scene call you a liar. Who held the keys to that ride? What hours was that engine running in the dead of night? Did it roll out of the driveway during those fatal hours that suddenly mean everything? Do the glowing eyes of security cameras expose a dark deception? Does the digital footprint back up the story? Or does it completely shatter the illusion? Could a single speck of dirt left on the floorboards link that car to a terrifying, previously unknown location? That is the exact moment an investigation flips upside down. The breakthrough never starts with a dramatic news flash. It begins with one terrifying inconsistency. A journey that makes zero sense. A rogue microscopic fiber screaming out of place. A missing hour that suddenly sends shivers down the spine. Or a laboratory match that forces authorities to rip apart everything they believed was absolute truth. When that domino falls, the whole hunt aggressively pivots, morphing into a completely unrecognizable beast. This is precisely why a set of wheels holds such devastating power. A vehicle is a steel vault locking away both the journey and the dark secrets hidden within it. It builds an invisible bridge from a suspect to a shadow-filled spot, tying that corner to a specific hour and linking that hour to an unthinkable act. Now, plunging into the chilling disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, where authorities are desperately clawing for answers about how this sinister vanishing actually went down. Any single item that tracks a suspect's path instantly becomes the golden ticket. Just picture the sheer panic when the forensics team returns with something massive. It might not hand them the perpetrator on a silver platter, but it completely decimates the comfortable narrative they were working with. This is the exact twist that makes seasoned officers both sweat with dread and spark with anticipation. Dread, because it might open the door to a reality far more disturbing than anyone imagined. Anticipation, because those silent clues are finally screaming a clear path forward. And finding that true north means absolutely everything when the trail has gone cold. As of the middle of March, officials were still broadcasting to the world that they had zero names on their radar. Yet they heavily pushed the narrative that the walls were closing in, furiously digging through mountains of clues and anonymous whispers. Whispers from the inside suggest the searchers have recently locked their eyes onto fresh, unseen camera captures, chasing down chilling trails that involve discarded hand coverings and other grim artifacts, aggressively probing several targets without pointing a public finger at anyone in her inner circle. Therefore, if a specific ride abruptly took center stage in the shadows, the squad would need to play their cards incredibly close to the chest. They absolutely would not scream it from the rooftops. Secondly, they would fiercely guard it from becoming a media circus. Every inch of it would be ruthlessly measured against the rest of the puzzle, against the crimson traces, against the tangled biological profiles, weighed against the ticking clock of the cameras, against that chilling eyewitness account of a creeping truck, against every single cellular ping, signal blackouts, and every digital breadcrumb of location data they could scrounge up. That exact pressure point is where this nightmare fractures into two wildly different realms. The first terrifying avenue turns the spotlight violently towards someone already standing inside the circle. In this dark twist, a ghost from that car drastically amplifies the heat on a figure who was already breathing down the neck of the investigation. You do not need a tearful admission of guilt. You do not even need a glaring, sinister weapon sitting on the passenger seat. It merely requires one tiny thread that forces the brass to whisper. Bring them back in. Tear their timeline apart one more time. We must stop treating this face as a bystander and start viewing them as the potential mastermind of this entire tragedy. A realization of that magnitude instantly weaponizes the interrogations. It aggressively alters the hunt for search papers and completely flips the script on lies told on day one. However, the alternative is equally mind-bending. These silent clues might pull off the ultimate magic trick and do the complete reverse. They could scream out that the internet's favorite obsession is completely hollow, proving that the suspicious car holds absolutely none of the dark secrets the world expected, revealing that the microscopic crumbs actually pave a road to a far more shocking, unseen villain, and proving that a highly anticipated clue is paramount not because it locks up the bad guy, but because it mercilessly kills a dead-end theory that was bleeding the clock dry. In the gritty reality of hunting monsters, that is not a defeat. That is a massive leap forward, because every burned bridge makes the surviving trails infinitely more critical. Thus, when we whisper that a breakthrough is going to flip everything on its head, we are not just saying it paints a bullseye on the guilty party. It can equally mean shattering the chains of a false narrative and rocketing the squad toward the true, terrifying reality. That unbearable anxiety is the beating heart of this entire deep dive you are watching today. The ultimate question is not just about what sinister item was unearthed, but whose world it violently crashed into. If you are tuned into True Crime Joe, this is your wake-up call to separate the internet hysteria from the cold, hard facts. Keyboard sleuths are notorious for sprinting toward a witch hunt. They latch their claws into a random face, a wild speculation, a ghost of a rumor, but actual manhunts are never fueled by viral outrage. They are kept alive strictly by what can be put on paper, violently cross-checked, and proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. And in the chilling saga of Nancy Guthrie, the official records still paint a picture of a frantic, burning hunt plagued by massive voids, with zero names given to the mob, all while the badge wearers aggressively push the chilling fact that this strike was deeply personal, desperately begging the public for the missing piece to this horrific puzzle. Brace yourself, because what happens next leaves no room for guessing. The net is closing in. Detectives are tightening the grip, mapping out every escape path, scrutinizing every point of entry. They are slicing through the lies to see who held onto secrets, tracking every shadow caught on tape, and agonizing over the cryptic clues left behind at the scene. The moment authorities lock onto these focal points, the heat cranks up intensely for absolutely anyone tied to that fateful night. Law enforcement rewinds the clock, tearing apart previous alibis, shattering early theories, and returning to the precise ticking seconds right before Nancy vanished into thin air. They are hunting down whoever brought her home, whoever dialed her number, whoever stalked the streets, whoever claims they witnessed a thing, whoever held a camera, whoever held the keys. The alibis that stick against the ones that crumble. This is the exact moment a cold mystery morphs into a suffocating trap for the guilty. When the task force stitches that fatal chronology back together, a single ticking moment can blow the whole narrative wide open. You see, the terrifying truth about Nancy Guthrie is not just about the horror she endured, but the chilling exactness of the clock, the terrifying speed of the event, and whether the footsteps echoing in the dark actually align with the official story. Officials are convinced Nancy was ripped from her life during the dead of night on February 1st. Mere hours following her final sighting at her residence in the Tucson vicinity, the task force has openly highlighted a chilling figure concealing his face on a porch camera, grim, crimson traces left on the front steps, a phantom car lurking through the neighborhood, and a massive, relentless sweep to hoard every byte of local video and electronic footprint available. They even dropped a massive bombshell. They are heavily scrutinizing bizarre network blackouts that struck during those exact same hours. This triad of clues is absolutely staggering. When you fuse security footage, shadowy transit patterns, and sudden electronic dead zones into one massive puzzle, the chain of events shatters into complex, overlapping dimensions. The first level is strictly physical, whose boots were on the pavement. What set of wheels drifted past the lens? How near did they get to her front door? How perfectly did it sync with Nancy fading into the dark? The second realm is completely cyber, were lenses intentionally blinded? Did Wi-Fi signals get sabotaged? Were smart devices knocked offline during a crucial window that now looks infinitely more sinister than initially believed? Finally comes the third, most treacherous level, the one where detectives always catch a break: human nature and the tales people spin. Do the frantic alibis sworn under oath hold up once the unblinking eye of a camera enters the chat? Do the chosen paths, Hold logic. Does the clock strike correctly? Do the claimed footsteps mirror the brutal reality of the data, the footage, and the grim physical markers left behind? This is exactly when the walls violently close in on the microscopic details for the whole world to see. Prepare yourself, because one of the most deeply disturbing twists recently uncovered has been the sudden discovery of fresh visual records dug up far beyond the boundaries and operational hours of the original dragnet. A phantom set of headlights was captured tearing down an asphalt stretch roughly 2.5 miles from Nancy's doorstep, a mere handful of seconds after officials suspect she was snatched. Law enforcement already has this crucial tape locked down, despite the fact it slipped right past their initial parameter requests. While it does not guarantee those specific tires are tied to the crime, it achieves something monumentally critical. It blows the entire geographical grid wide open. The second the search grid stretches out, the ticking clock warps right alongside it. The authorities are no longer just agonizing over the horrors contained within those residential walls. They are intensely demanding to know the immediate aftermath, dissecting which highways are crucial, which compass points hold the key, which subtle shifts are vital, what kind of driving patterns scream guilt, and what was mundane versus what was purely malevolent beneath that night sky. But this is precisely the tipping point where early guesses turn utterly lethal to a case, especially since an ominous sedan lurking by the property weeks prior had already sparked intense police scrutiny. The task force distinctly begged the surrounding community to hand over their front porch digital memories from several specific calendar days, encompassing a pivotal date exactly 20 days before Nancy was ripped away, loudly signaling that they refused to view this nightmare as a freak, spur-of-the-moment tragedy, but rather a calculated, sinister plot involving meticulous stalking and a constant, shadowy lurking within her safe space. Let the sheer terror of that reality sink in for a moment. If the squad is utterly convinced an automobile scouted her street before the strike, and then an entirely separate lens catches an engine roaring away right after the horror went down, the entire manhunt shifts from tracking isolated flukes to threading together cold, hard, psychopathic routines. Did the predator map out and memorize the exact same getaway path? Was her peaceful block placed under a terrifying microscope weeks in advance? Did a monster memorize the blind spots of the lenses, calculate the street lamp shadows, pinpoint the dead-end trails, and stalk the family's nightly rhythm? Should any set of wheels bridge the gap on those terrifying questions, it ceases to be just a background detail. It violently crashes into the very bullseye of the manhunt. This is exactly what makes tearing down and reconstructing the ticking clock so monumental. It forces the boots on the ground to stop viewing the breadcrumbs as mere coincidences. Suddenly, the digital eye at the door must be scrutinized right alongside the mystery transit logs. Those engine sightings must be weighed against the grim crimson trails left on the concrete. Those harrowing physical markers must be measured against the chaotic biological profiles left behind. And that blended genetic trace must be held up to the horrifying theory of a hidden partner in crime. Yet, every single piece of this agonizing puzzle must constantly bow to one deeply devastating, unshakable truth: Nancy was hunted, based on the grave statements issued by Sheriff Chris Nanos. Applying the label of a hunted prey shifts the psychological weight of this entire nightmare, because a focused, intentional strike screams orchestration, and pure orchestration heavily implies dark, meticulous groundwork. Such cold-blooded groundwork almost always breeds a trail of behavioral echoes, and when those sinister echoes violently collide with raw camera feeds and shadowy tire tracks, they inevitably rip the mask off a crime that only pretended to be a coincidence. Picture the sheer chaos dumped on the detectives' desks. You have a faceless phantom caught on film, biological traces left at the doorstep, conflicting genetic profiles, and a swarm of strange vehicle sightings. Add to that the frantic getaway ride captured on neighborhood lenses, the highly calculated Wi-Fi blackout, and the chilling theory that this intruder did not act alone. At this exact point, the mystery forces a terrifying pivot. Detectives must brutally separate the genuine breadcrumbs from the misleading phantoms haunting the crime scene. This is the exact moment the net tightens. It never happens by chasing the flashiest lead. but by slamming these fragments together to see which ones withstand the pressure. For those of you tuning into True Crime Joe, human nature practically screams at you to skip to the end and confidently proclaim you have solved the entire puzzle. Yet, this incredibly tempting juncture is precisely where seasoned law enforcement slams the brakes. Rushing the process is a fatal mistake, as impatient authorities might easily hammer completely disconnected puzzle pieces into a dangerously flawed narrative. On the flip side, dragging their feet could mean overlooking the subtle glue, binding these isolated anomalies into one clear picture. Striking that perfect rhythm is absolute agony. Looking deeply at Nancy's situation, maintaining that razor-thin equilibrium explains why task force members obsessively demand solid backing for every single claim. A solitary lens is never enough. They need overlapping angles. A fleeting glimpse of a ride means nothing without a confirmed, mapped-out convoy path. Finding a single stray artifact yields zero answers until it locks perfectly into a broader web of tangible and electronic proof pointing toward one undeniable villain. This rigorous standard makes the word closer carry absolute weight. Back in the beginning of March, Sheriff Nanos revealed that his team was inching dangerously near to unmasking the perpetrators, though he firmly maintained total secrecy regarding any official identities. Nearing the finish line is not crossing it. It simply means the crosshairs are tightening, and within that confined space, minor errors suddenly scream out like sirens. An ignored backroad suddenly transforms into the central artery of the plot. A previously loose digital clock reading abruptly shifts into the key that locks the cage. A generic sedan that formerly melted into the suburban backdrop now practically glows with malicious intent. What initially looked like a random router glitch now reeks of a highly tactical blackout, engineered by an adversary desperate to blind the neighborhood's digital eyes. Here, our deep dive careens straight into a thoroughly chilling and sleep-stealing territory. Imagine if the ultimate smoking gun was absolutely nothing you could actually hold in your hands. Consider the sheer terror of kinetic energy. A phantom ride drifting down an unlikely street at an impossible hour, pacing itself entirely incorrectly during a nightmare scenario where the exact seconds following Nancy's disappearance are vital. Pure momentum quietly whispers secrets the perpetrator desperately wanted buried. Velocity betrays sheer panic. It hints at the agonizing relocation of a target. It screams of a frantic, desperate getaway. Trajectories outline dry runs, predatory stalking, and paranoid backtracking. The sheer physics of a drive can completely separate a spontaneous tragedy from a cold, calculated strike. The second authorities factor velocity into their chronological puzzle. Anything attached to that kinetic shift multiplies in value. Each intersection, security lens, pause, and wheel becomes explosive. We have finally hit the terrifying threshold where buried secrets forcefully claw their way to the surface. This shift does not mean the final cuffs have been slapped on, nor does it signal a victorious press conference from the precinct. But it proves the scattered shards are organically fusing into one monstrous reality. As these pieces click flawlessly together, the shadows shrink, leaving absolutely nowhere for the guilty party to conceal themselves in the fog of doubt. Meanwhile, the brass has aggressively swatted down several wild rumors infecting the public space. Take Sheriff Nanos explicitly denying the popular myth that the disguised prowler had scoped out the property prior to the main event, completely shattering widespread internet gossip. The heartbreaking disappearance of Nancy Guthrie reminds us that behind every true crime story is not just a mystery but a human life, a family, and a community forever changed. Cases like this teach us an important lesson about vigilance, empathy, and the value of truth. In moments of tragedy, rumors and speculation often spread faster than facts. But real justice is built on patience, evidence, and careful investigation. Law enforcement must follow the quiet trail of science's tiny clues, timelines, and forensic details rather than the noise of public assumptions. This reminds us that truth is rarely loud or dramatic. Sometimes it hides in the smallest details waiting to be uncovered. At the same time, stories like Nancy's urge communities to look out for one another. A simple camera recording, a remembered detail, or a small piece of information can become the missing link that brings answers to grieving families. Awareness and cooperation can make the difference between silence and justice. Most importantly, this case reminds us to protect compassion in a world of digital speculation. Innocent people can be harmed by careless accusations online. True justice respects facts, protects the innocent, and honors the victims. In the end, the real goal is not just solving a mystery, it is restoring dignity to those who were taken and ensuring that truth, patience, and humanity always prevail.